we have people joining us here, so I'll start. Welcome to the social hub for the month of October. I think we've been doing this. I think we rebooted this back in July, I think, and I've been doing them every month. So thanks for joining us again and being with us. We have Tyler Hoffman with Stellar Blue Technologies leading our discussion again today, talking about multimedia, how to leverage video and photos to increase engagement online. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Tyler. I think we're recording this session, and again, if anybody has any questions, certainly use the Q&A tab and ask those questions, and I'll monitor those, and Tyler most likely too, and either answer them as they come up or maybe at the end of the session. So please do that. And with that, I will introduce and turn it over to Tyler.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Yeah, I'll share a screen here, go through a quick presentation. Feel free to jump in at any point if you guys have questions. Otherwise, at the end, I'll make sure I leave plenty of time for a little Q&A. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys doing this. Really important right now for people to be able to optimize their online presence, especially given the state of things, everything going online. So multimedia has been a bigger and bigger part of that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just let me know if we have any issues viewing this. Hopefully we don't. All right, can you guys see this?
It's all good.
Awesome. All right, we'll get started then. So what I wanted to go through today is we kind of do these build out, what we call building blocks. I know we've talked about them in the past for a lot of different segments of our business. We have one set up for multimedia, and I thought that might be a really good intro to kind of what we're talking about when we say multimedia and what that means to your online presence. So I'm going to see if I can get control. There we go. So essentially, we always start with this kind of like universe of digital marketing that we live within. I guess for us, it's this dome over the top is your website, but everything that we do is segmented into bettering your online presence. So today, obviously, we'll talk mostly about multimedia, but I did want to introduce kind of how we think about digital marketing. And it always starts with that foundation of, your strategy, looking at your analytics to have a clear understanding of what your users want, what that user base needs, to hopefully get those conversions and ultimately get them to interact and engage with your brand. And your SEO, search engine optimization, is so critical to all of this, because really, if people don't have visibility of what you're trying to do, they'll never find you. So there's no point in spending all this money in advertising or content, multimedia, anything, if they can't find you anyway. So that's kind of the foundation of it. And then we move into the content advertising. And at the very top, we have multimedia. So that's one of the first things that people see. So that's what we're going to dive into today. So when we talk about multimedia, just like everything else, we really start with that foundation of strategy, having a clear understanding of your business initiatives, your goals, your mission. Really, we do a full competitive analysis to have an understanding of what your competitors are doing, what's working for them and what's not. And then from there, we can figure out how to create engaging content for your users, your customers to interact with. So we start with that strategy component. We'll get into that more. Then we dive into the shooting and filming. Believe it or not, that is not the most lengthy, exhausting portion of multimedia. It's always the editing. So those are the foundations for any multimedia. Editing is where everything comes into play, and you're always better off getting more, capture as much as you can up front, because it's all in editing. But then from that point, it really comes down to where you plan on showing this and how you want your users to engage with your multimedia. So the platform that you select is extremely critical. And again, we'll dive into this more. We'll go through each one. But analytics, again, like anything else, analytics for your website, analytics insights for your social media, you need to have an understanding of what your users are looking for. So have an understanding of what they like about media. Are you hitting the right target audience for your brand and your brand message? You can get all of that information pending what channel you pick to display your media on. So we'll go into that a little bit. And then advanced multimedia, and that's taking everything to the next level. We don't live in a world of just 2 dimensions anymore. So virtual reality and some of those solutions have really excelled. And I can talk about a few examples that we have for that as well. So Like I said, strategy first and foremost. Weirdly enough, if people hear a message, specific content, they actually only they can only recall about 10% of it. Whereas if you tie in any imagery to that, a video, photography, anything, they typically remember about 65%. So it just really reinstates that people are typically visual learners. So make sure you're utilizing social media and other channels to display imagery, not just text verbiage, because it won't be retained. So first, identify your target audience. That's going to be one of the most important things to really have an understanding of what channel you're going to be using, what your message should be, and what kind of video you're going to be producing, if it's video or photography or within multimedia with virtual reality and everything else. So really just have a clear understanding of what your viewers want. If your typical target audience is 65 years and older, maybe virtual reality isn't going to be their gig. But your average user now, no matter what age, is actually getting into that mobile space. So mobile friendly is kind of critical at this point in time. And then what tone is your message conveying? And I really like to focus on the storyboard aspect, because it's so much more than just typical advertising nowadays. I mean, really telling an emotive story about your brand and what you represent is so much more important than just touting the product or service that you have. So really put that together into a story, and then use multimedia to display and share that story with the world. So we'll dive right into the shooting and filming portion of this. Like I said, the biggest block for me is the editing, but when it comes to shooting and filming, there's a lot of elements to that. So 54% of customers want to see more video from the brands that they engage with and they support. It makes sense, right? I mean, people like to learn from it. Look at how many people utilize YouTube to actually learn how to do something, learn how to tie a tie, learn how to build something, learn how to fix their car. So why not tie in your brand with that kind of engagement? You want people to associate you with a quick go-to, and that quick go-to now is video. I think I have a stat coming up here shortly that talks about outside of Google, YouTube is the second most used search engine. So just crazy things that people are looking for those videos. So anything you can provide for them to engage more is obviously going to help your company. Some things to keep in mind. Do you have your own equipment? Times are changing, especially now. I think it's more understandable for people to do more vlogging, which is like video log. They can do that from their own cell phone. So pending what kind of video you're trying to take, do you have, the full, $500,000 camera that you need to shoot, a full motion picture, or, are you cool with just being able to use your cell phone? It really depends on the content you're trying to put out there, and specifically what channel you're trying to put it on. But do you have that equipment? Location is critical. We have very, very strict guidelines as far as drone. If you're trying to fly drone for any shots, you have to be very cautious. First of all, make sure you have a licensed drone pilot. And make sure that they have a clear understanding of flight restrictions in certain areas. So I'm here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We've got Lambeau Field here. We cannot fly at Lambeau Field without very special permissions. We have to get a permit for that. Also, anywhere within the Green Bay International Airport, Austin Straubel, we cannot fly. It's a no flight. So we have to be really careful about where we're flying. There's regulations in every city over crowds and things like that. So make sure you know your specific shoot locations and any restrictions associated with those. And then make sure you set aside enough time. So much of it is, I think with every shoot that we do, we typically have at least 3 tentative dates, because if it's an outdoor shoot, you have to deal with weather, and sometimes you have models that can't make it if you're trying to make a lifestyle shoot. If one of your interviewees can't be there, that's going to be a problem too. So always have a backup plan, but it takes a lot more time than people might think just to have that set up. And then when you are there and you are shooting, capture a ton of B-roll. You can always go back in the edit and add more, but you cannot go back and reshoot because times change. And right now, this time of year is really hard to do videos because one week it might be great and you've got the perfect fall scenes, and then the next week, that's it. Now it looks like winter and we can't do anything because it's 27 degrees outside. So it's really, really important to make sure that you are capturing as much as you can on the front end And that really, like I said, helps the editing. So the next building block, again, part of that foundation for multimedia is editing. Believe it or not, 84% of buyers reported that they were convinced to buy just by watching the brand's video. That's not just about a product, that's a brand. So people fall in love with and feel that emotive urge to support and be a part of a specific brand just based on watching a video. That's huge. You're missing out on a big segment if you're not capitalizing on some of that. So one thing that I like to keep in mind when it comes to editing is editing software. This has become more and more mainstream, and it's more accessible for a lot of people to have a really good editing software. Even on your cell phone nowadays, you can actually have some really great editing software. So keep that in mind. There are a lot of different ways to do that. But again, if there's resources available, I know we say, the third bullet here is, do you have the team members with the skills to edit? We have a lot of clients that do their own video shooting. They take their own photography, or they have a photographer on staff, and then they come to us to help edit and put together a story and put together a video. And that's always an option too. So keep that in mind. It's really figure out what your strengths are if you're trying to move into the multimedia segment. And then from there, we can figure out a way to get that out to the world and hopefully pick the best channel of communication to make that most effective. So, and a big part of that, utilize text overlays, motion graphics, things like that are actually going to keep people engaged more than just having to listen to somebody speak. Give them some visuals on top of the video that they're watching. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for that. Obviously, dedicate plenty of time. When we put together a block of time for multimedia, editing is actually the biggest portion of that block. And it's just because you have to go back through so much of that B-roll, but ultimately putting together that story for a user. So, and I don't know, did we have a question come in there, John? I thought I saw something pop up on my screen. We can always address it later too, if we want to wait till the end. Let's do that. We'll jump in at the end for any questions you guys have. So building blocks, next one, optimized platform. Really, whatever you're putting together, make sure you're choosing the platform. And by platform, I mean, are you putting it on YouTube? Is it living on your website? Is it going to be on a social media channel? Facebook right now, optimized video is typically going to be at least a minute long, which if you're doing an ad, you know that that's a no-no. You want to be about 30 seconds tops. But if it's content, pending the content, if it's very content heavy, or it'll actually stay relevant longer if it's closer to the 5-minute mark. So really, when you're picking what your message is, that's going to help you dictate like where you should be posting your content. So think about this. Over 1 billion hours actually of video are consumed on YouTube every day. I think that number is actually way higher than that now. This was pulled a while back. So it's crazy to think that that's how much video is being consumed. There's no reason you shouldn't be utilizing YouTube as a platform. And you can do that. Your video can be housed within YouTube, but then you can have it display on your website. So there are different ways to utilize certain channels. I know Vimeo is another big one. People like to have a Vimeo link within their website or something like that. A lot of different ways to do it. A big key to that is just making sure it's set up correctly to optimize your SEO rankings. You really want people to be able to get in there and search for something and then be able to find it based on the same keywords that they would see within your website. So whether they're on your YouTube channel, whether they're looking at an ad that you have on Facebook, ad you have on Google, anything like that, make sure you're consistent with keywording. And that should be in part of that description about the video as well. So we can talk a little bit about this, but again, talked about the channel. That's going to be really key. And is it optimized for video? Size is a huge issue. Pending how you have your hosting set up for your website, a large video, even a really large photo, could actually crash your website if enough people come to it all at once. You have to make sure that your hosting, your bandwidth is set up to accommodate that. So look at where you're going to be posting your videos, your photos, and make sure that you're not exceeding the restrictions, and make sure that you're set up to sustain and support that. Otherwise, this could actually have a negative effect on your business. And then how do you want your users to engage and interact with that multimedia? It's more than just viewing it and like, oh, that's pretty, that company seems cool, you actually should have a call to action associated with every single one. So what is that call to action? Part of that should be defined during that strategy phase we talked about, is really getting that understanding of, okay, what do we want our user to do? When they see this, they should feel better than like, oh, that company is really great and I'd love to support them. There should be a call to action to get them to the next level. So make sure that you have an understanding of that. And we'll talk about that here in a second as well. But how you determine that really comes down to your analytics. So a website is 53 times more likely to reach the front page of Google if it includes a video. And obviously the more relevant it is, the more organic search SEO rankings that you can get, or ranking points that you can get, the better. So make sure that you are taking full advantage of that. And if it means putting out a video, even if it's not a full motion picture production type of video, I mean, think about this. How many of you are on LinkedIn? You probably see people getting out of a meeting, hopping in their car and taking a selfie video, like a quick vlog, right there on the spot. But those are actually ranking really high, and it's because of the content that's within it. So just getting a video out there, that's going to help. And then tying it to the right channels, don't just post it there. Make sure that there's a way that people can get to it from different channels and kind of cross over that way. So when it comes to tracking metrics, make sure you're not just looking at the numbers for quantity is not as important as quality. Make sure that the right target audience are the ones engaging with your multimedia. So if you have videos and you're seeing that the wrong audience is watching them, you need to change the content within your video and or the channel of communication you've picked. So maybe Facebook isn't the right platform for that video because you're not getting the right target audience. Play around with that. And the way that you get to understand that is analytics. For example, if you post something on Facebook, whether it's just a static post of content or a video, anything, you'll get Facebook insights, and you can look at who is viewing it and is that in alignment with what your brand vision is for who is interacting and engaging with your company. That's all really important stuff, and most of that is included. I mean, Google Analytics is free. You can see that for your website. You can look at Facebook Insights. I don't know if there's a cost. I don't believe there's a cost associated with certain levels. But make sure you're utilizing that, because that's kind of the proof in the pudding to determine if your dollars are being well spent and your campaigns are going to be effective. So make sure you're optimized on all counts, and make sure that your analytics, you're not just looking at general traffic. Oh, wow, lots of people view this. Okay, it doesn't mean anything if it wasn't the right audience. So really dive into analytics as much as you can to get that clear understanding of who is actually engaging with your brand. How do you make data-driven decisions? Again, really get an understanding of those analytics. The deeper that you can dive into those to understand, geographic can be a big element of that. If you're a local small business, you're putting out videos and it's all being consumed by, people in California or people out of state, and you don't ship or sell a product, maybe you're just a service business, it's not going to do you any good. So really get a clear understanding of who is consuming that content, because that's going to dictate how you move forward. And then last but not least, advanced multimedia. That's kind of what we talk about, the next gen of multimedia. You're already seeing it in the mainstream to a decent extent, and it's growing exponentially, especially now that people are kind of living in their homes, stuck in their homes, and then living their whole life online. So virtual reality has been a bigger and bigger thing. It's been around for many years, but not really taken full advantage of until it became more mainstream. Now you've got people able to take VR videos. So I know we do this, we do virtual tours for clients to give their users a quick and easy experience on their cell phone. You can do, hold your cell phone in your static location and look as if you're standing in a room. It's really important for people to be able to see that. You can do that with video. You can do that with still, just standpoints. But virtual reality isn't just limited to VR goggles now. So yes, you can use VR goggles, and that's going to be kind of the top tier of experiencing that virtual world. But you can simplify that. I mean, Google made that very mainstream when you could start searching for places and then click on a street view and look around and say, oh, there's the parking lot. Oh, there's the door I need to enter. So they kind of took the most simple form of it, and they helped it become mainstream. So people are now getting out there and saying, okay, if I can do that outside, why can't I do that within the store? And Google now, I think in recent months, started integrating that as well. So we can submit, something onto like Google My Business so that people can actually see right inside. So, oh, there's the reception desk. Awesome. I know where to go when I walk into that building. Familiarizing people before they're actually physically present is really valuable to a lot of people. So keep in mind, you can really use virtual reality for a lot of different things to showcase, from showcasing your city, driving around and letting people be able to be in control of what they see, not just where the lens is focused. Because these are 360. There are limitations to this too, though. If you plan on getting into that ballpark, keep in mind, lighting is a big struggle. You can't have fake lighting because it's a 360 ring. So if you have like floodlights somewhere, people will see those floodlights if they just turn around. So you have to be very strategic on how you're going about it, but it does allow users to really get a better experience of whatever you're showing. So definitely something to keep in mind. Also podcasting. I mean, they've been around for years, but businesses are just now finally starting to take advantage of them and cross mediums. So if you're doing a podcast, maybe you already have been writing blogs. Well, that could be great content for a podcast. So keep that in mind. And if you're doing that, why not film it and then put it on YouTube? If you have a YouTube channel, go ahead and put it there. Simplify the process, but now people can access you on YouTube, they can listen to your podcast, or they could read your blog. It could all be the same content. It could all be tying back to your website through that relevant content. And now your SEO rankings are skyrocketing because you just connected all these dots. So a lot of different ways to really take full advantage of this, but I'm just trying to throw out just a few. Like I said, that we couldn't possibly get through them all, but just wanted to give everyone kind of a high level of what you can do, taking it beyond just your traditional, photos and videos. And then really have a clear understanding of what your competition is doing. It is really, really important that you see what's working. I mean, when we do a competitive analysis, we're actually able to dive in and figure out what's working for our client. Not just, we know what our client's competition is doing and how successful it is as well. Thanks to the digital age we live in, you can access all of that. You can find everything online. So we know how impactful some of these campaigns are to make better recommendations for others. It's all about that differentiating factor. So just finding different ways to do that, different ways to use different channels of communication and try different messages. Right now, the world is looking for comedy and more lighthearted things. So emotive messages are really important to people right now. So if you tie a brand, and you'll see that if you watch any commercials, there's a lot of emotive messaging or comedy being integrated into advertising right now. Keep that in mind though, that goes beyond just your ads. That represents your brand. So you can kind of carry that message through any vlog that you're putting together, any podcast that you're putting out there to the world. It's all going to work in your favor as another means for people to understand and get to know and engage with your business. So, and really that's the high level of what I wanted to go through. I'd be more than happy to take some time to chat about questions that you guys might have, different things that you've tried that are or are not working. We'll just open up the floor really.
Yes, Tyler, a question had come in before, and is iMovie or Adobe Rush better for video editing?
Yeah, so I am not an editor myself. That said, I do my own personal stuff. We have a multimedia team that does it for us, obviously, but for my personal stuff, I actually use iMovie, but now all the new Apple products, like the newer iPhones, newer iPads, and everything that were launched within the last month to last week, actually have Dolby, a whole Dolby suite integrated on those devices. So you can actually use, I think it's, I forget, Dolby Video something or other that is supposed to be really good. It's ranked very high, and a lot of the Apple products that are used now for actually shooting commercials and shooting video, that's what they're using. So I'd have to look into that a little bit further. Happy to get back to you on that, though. I'm sure my design team would have plenty of things to say about that. So.
Sure. Okay. Is there any other questions from anybody? We got Tyler here with us for the next several minutes, and if there's any burning questions out there, now is a good time to jump in. You must have did a good job, Tyler, because everything and anything that was burning in their mind has been answered here. So,
well, I kept it pretty high level. happy to answer more specific questions. I have my contact information on the screen right now, so feel free to take that down, find me on LinkedIn, send me an email, give me a call, whichever. I know a lot of people just don't like to ask questions right up front, or if people watch this later on, yeah, everyone's totally welcome to reach out anytime. Happy to answer any questions. And like I said, I am not the expert. I am not the multimedia expert on our team by any means. We've got some really great professionals for that, and they could definitely answer anything that I'm not able to answer today. So.
We did have one that just came in, and it's related to platforms. So what are the best social media platforms for video?
Yeah, so it really depends on what your message is and what type of video you're putting out there. So every business is different. I would say pick your social media platform based on typically the age group that you're going for. For example, Facebook, very popular amongst a lot of generations now, but actually the younger generations aren't engaging with it very much. So pending what your audience is, that's one way to pick the platform. My recommendation is choose the platform according to that, and then make the video according to what those regulations are. So let's say for me, Facebook is a platform I want to select because that is my target market. Then I would say, okay, I need at least, the trend right now is at least 1 minute length of video. You need longer than a minute to keep it relevant longer. Less than 5, I would say 3 is kind of a sweet spot. So put out like a 3-minute video on Facebook, and that'll probably be relevant for longer than a less than 1 minute clip. So it really comes down to what's going to be best for your brand and your business. If that answers the question. But I mean, some of the top ones, of course, Facebook is one of the top ones. LinkedIn is the top one. Pending your business, Instagram can be. When it comes to visuals, Instagram is really good, but longer videos don't do quite as well on Instagram. It's usually the shorter videos that work better. So you just have to, honestly, you can Google a lot of those stats to figure out, which one is going to be best. Do the same for what time of day is best to post. It's usually automated now anyway, so just schedule it to post at a certain time of day. But whether it's a video, whether it's you're posting a blog, whether you're just posting a simple social media post of any sort, make sure you know the best time to do it to maximize engagement and visibility. So, and again, a lot of that, there's studies constantly being done, so it's always being updated. So make sure that you honestly just Google it, and you'll see kind of what's trending right now for times of day, days of the week, things like that. And then you'll get a better understanding based on what each platform is going to be most relevant for. Twitter is probably one that I don't utilize quite as much, but it's pretty good for real time. And then that's all changing quite a bit now that you have live feeds for Facebook and live feeds for other platforms. So and certainly feel free to do a live. I think you want to stay live for at least 7 minutes if you're doing any sort of Facebook live. I'd have to check with my team on that, but I believe it's something along those lines. Like you want it to be more than 7 minutes long.
Great. All right. Well, any other last questions for Tyler? Now's the time to jump in. Seeing none, thanks for joining us again, Tyler, with Southern Blue Technologies. Very, very good program again. We'll be coming back again on November 17th, 8 a.m., same time, same station here, same format, Zoom again. And we'll be talking digital advertising, how to drive more traffic to your website from online ads. So be looking for that. We'll be doing that. You have Tyler's contact information. If you want to view this again, it'll be posted online. You can go back to that and get Tyler's contact information if you had any questions or comments. We have another question that just came in.
All right.
How have clients you have worked with utilized Facebook Live and Periscope, etc.?
I know Facebook Live. So, I mean, that's probably the best question for my marketing team, but Facebook Live has been extremely beneficial to a lot of our clients. Again, I think you want to keep the videos a little bit longer for those to maximize engagement and keep it relevant for longer. So if you're just putting out a short clip, don't do it as Facebook Live, just post it. But I mean, realistically now, if you start by telling that, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more in the next one, but it's more about that emotive story that you're telling. If you're just getting on Facebook Live and just talking about your product or your service, it's not going to be as impactful and probably not get as many engagements or as much viewership as if it is about an emotive story. So really you want to build that following. It's most beneficial to tell the story of why you feel this way or why you're helping people or what you're doing. For example, like we have a whole initiative right now for nonprofits. And the whole goal is like us talking about our engagement with nonprofits. It's nothing about our company. I mean, this is actually something that allows other clients of ours to help other clients of ours. And it's just beneficial for everyone, but it's a passion point for us. So we want to talk about that. And that's something that's really good for Facebook Live or any live platform. Just having that conversation, because people like to see that. So I wouldn't use it more as a salesy kind of solution. Make sure that you're telling a true story. It goes back to kind of what I talked about storyboarding and emotive marketing. It's going to be most beneficial that way. I don't know if that answered your question, but it really comes down to your individual business on what you're putting out there. And each of our clients kind of use it differently. But most of them talk about, their passion or where they came from, or just tell a story. It doesn't even have to be about their business though. They might tell a story about like an industry trend, and that's going to be a lot more impactful than using it as a sales tool.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we'll call. Well, I thought we had another question, but false alarm. So I guess we'll call it a morning. And again, thanks Tyler for joining us with Stellar Blue. And again, we'll see you next month on November 17th. Between now and then, stay safe, and we will see you we'll see you in November. So thanks for joining us.
Sounds good. Thanks again, John. Thanks, guys.